Hello everybody, I hope everyone is having a good day today. Oh, hello to you too. Today we will be making a drawstring gift bag. Last year I wanted to make drawstring gift bags to give around the holidays and I couldn't find a tutorial that really worked well for me. I really wanted not to have exposed seams on the inside. I don't have a serger, I don't like the way zigzagging seams looked. I tried French seams, but it was fiddly at the top. I could never get it to look right. So this bag is a combination of a lot of tutorials that I followed. You can follow along with me in the steps and learn how to make your own. They're super easy to customize for sizes. You can use whatever fabric you want, makes them super cute, really easy and quick to make. Here we go. You can make any size gift bag you want. Your gift bag will end up being about an inch skinnier and several inches shorter than your starting piece. So my starting pieces happen to be today 10.5 by 16. I usually just take, if I don't have a specific gift that I'm making something for, I just take the biggest cut of fabric that I have and make it several inches taller than it is wide. Okie dokie, so we're gonna mark these for sewing. First, the outside pieces. I'm gonna put these right sides together and line them up, and I'm gonna mark them 2.5 inches from the top on the edge, and also 3.5 inches. So that's 1 inch of space between those two marks. I'll do the same thing on the other side. So here's 2.5 inches and here's 3.5 inches. This is the channel where my drawstring is gonna go. So I'm gonna sew the sides together, but I'm not gonna sew this space. So I'll come down here, go backwards to lock off, cut, skip this section, and then here I'll go backwards and then forwards all the way around back to up here. I'll go backwards to lock off, cut, and then start sewing here, go backwards, forwards just to lock, and then go off the edge. For the inside pieces, you don't need to mark. Once you make a couple of these, you'll get the hang of it. But the inside pieces, when we sew them together, we don't need to leave an opening for the channel. We're gonna sew all the way around, but on one of the sides, we do need to leave an opening so we can turn our bag. So since we're just demoing here, I'll make a mark and then another mark. I want these marks to be big enough that I can fit my hand through here. So I'm gonna start over here, sew all the way around. When I get to this mark, I'll go backwards just to lock it, and then I'll cut. I'll start again here. I'll go forwards, backwards just to lock it, and then sew off the edge. Okay, so I've sewed my outer pieces and my lining right sides together. On the lining, I left a huge hole right here. On the outer piece, I left small holes on either side for my drawstring channel. And now I'm gonna do a move that will help me later. I'm gonna iron these seams open, and I'm actually probably gonna put just the tiniest dot of glue to make them stay down. That way later, when I come back to put my drawstring in, these seams won't be like folding over, making it really hard to get that drawstring in. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is box the corners so the bottom of this bag will lay flat. You don't have to box the corners. You could just leave them as points, especially if you're making a small bag or you don't have quite enough fabric and you don't want your bag to be, you lose some height here, you can probably see. So what I'm doing to box the corners is I've got one seam, the bottom seam going one way and the side seam going the other way, and I've just pushed so I can feel that they're kind of butting against one another, and then I'll put a pin in there. Now I need to measure. I'm going to measure along here and draw a line just so that's perpendicular to this stitch line so that I know it's going to be straight. Okay, so I have my ruler here. I'm putting the 0 mark of my ruler on the corner of my stitch line down here, and I'm marking 2 inches. I just got a pencil here, and now I'm going to draw a line like this. And you can make this, I mean, I could have made this 1 inch, I could have made it 3 inches. Well, 3 inches proportionally would probably look weird. I'm just drawing this line so that I can make sure that I get them all the same. So I've got a pin here, you can put another pin. You're just gonna sew along this line. And you're gonna do this exact same process to the other corner on your outside and to both corners on your lining. Great, so now I've got this sewn. I did go forwards, backwards, and then backwards at the end to lock off these seams. I'm just gonna trim with a pair of scissors. This does not have to be anything exact. I'm just cutting off these triangles at the corners so there's not so much bulk in the bottom of my bag. So once you have these corners cut off, you're gonna turn the lining right side out. So my outer part of my bag is wrong side out. I'm going to turn my lining right side out, and then I'm going to put my lining inside of my outer bag so that the right side of the lining and the right side of the outer bag are touching. What I want to do at this point is line up my side seams. So I did iron those ones flat. I'm going to find the inside one, line it up with the outside one, and then put in a pin. I'm going to do that on same thing on the other side. Find my inside lining seam, line it up with my outside seam, and put a pin. Now I'm going to go over to the sewing machine. I'm going to pull off that accessory compartment so I have access to my free arm, and I'm going to sew probably 3/8 of an inch all the way around the outside. So I'm sewing the lining to the outside, right sides together. Alright, so this is the accessory tray on my machine. I'm pulling that off. So now I have access to this free arm. I'm going to slide my bag around my arm, and now I just am gonna make sure this is nice and lined up. They should be the exact same size. Just give it a little tug, make sure they are the exact same size so you don't get any rumples. And now we're gonna go all the way around. You don't need to back stitch here. We're gonna come back and top stitch this later, so this will be enclosed in another seam too. Go all the way around. Okay, so I sewed the two together all around the top. Now I'm going to pull my lining out of the inside, find that hole I left earlier, and turn the whole bag right side out through that hole. So you'll have this lining piece, and then this, if it'll go, this is the outside. So I'm just poking out these corners for my boxy bottom, and now I'm going to give this hole a press. See how it wants to lay? I gave it that nice 3/8 inch seam so it wants to lay. I'm going to press this with the iron, and then I'm going to sew an 1/8 inch along here. You can close this bag by hand, but I don't think anybody's going to be investigating the inside of my gift bag to make sure the lining doesn't have any exterior stitches. So I'm just going to take it over to the sewing machine and zip right along there to close it up. Okay, so yes, you can see the stitching on the lining. No, I do not care. I'll trim. I do go forward and back to lock my stitches, and I trim all the threads, and then that's it. So now we're going to flip the lining so it's inside of the bag, and we're going to iron, we're going to press. So this seam takes a little finagling. We want these to lay flat with the lining on the inside and the outside on the outside. So if you have a regular ironing board, you can just slide this whole bag onto the end and get a really nice press here. I just use this table, so it's a little cumbersome, but you can definitely make it work. The next step that we're going to do is going to be to sew around this top where we just pressed. And then while I'm over there, I'm going to sew the channels for my drawstring. The first couple of these you may want to mark where the channels go. So there's a couple ways you can do that. If you have one of these disappearing water erasable markers, that's a great solution. If you have a bone folder, the way that this works is so what we're trying to mark here is the straight line between the top of this drawstring channel and the top of this drawstring channel. I can do that with this bone folder, maybe not on this nice mat. Oh, I can see it actually. It's probably hard for you to see. I'll do it with this marker so that maybe you can see it a little better. Here's the top of my channel, and then here's the bottom of my channel. And I'm gonna sew all the way around, so I need to mark it on the other side too. So I'll flip it over, again, find the top of my channel right here. Oops, come here. And the top of my channel over here. And then the bottom. Oh, I can see where my mark is. How helpful. So I'm gonna sew around this 3 times. The first one will be around the very top, then I'll sew each of these lines, this top of the channel and this bottom of the channel. So I am going to go forward and then backwards and then all the way around for all of these. I'm especially going to go forwards and backwards on these openings. This is where there'll be some stress because of the drawstring. And then because I've gone forwards and backwards, I can trim my thread at the end, right at the fabric. I don't need to worry about tying a knot or burying threads. Everything will be locked in, so I can just snip it off. Sometimes it has happened to me that as I'm coming around to the line of stitches that I already made in these final steps, I discover that I get a little bit of extra, like there's a rumple forming, like a wave is forming, and that's an indicator that my lining and my outer pieces were different sizes, either because I cut them different sizes or because my seam on one was different than the other one. When that happens, I try to push that wave to the seam over here. It's not happening that dramatically here. Let's see if I can get a little, just pushing. Also smoothing as you're going will help this. I'm just trying to demonstrate. So I'm pushing this tiny little rumple right here towards where the other line of stitching goes in. And my strategy there is the next step I'm about to do is to put my drawstring in. When I have the drawstring in, there'll be a bunch of busy, we'll be pulling on it. It's going to be wrinkly over here anyway. No one's going to notice. There's like a pleat that forms right on your side. I made a bunch of bags that had pleats in them. I got 0 complaints. So don't worry if that happens to you. You'll get better at cutting and sewing as time goes on. Okay, it's time to add the drawstring. Oh, there's like some blue marking. If you can see that disappears with water, ink, you literally just have to spritz it with water. You don't have to wash your bag. Just spritz it with water. I think if you iron it, maybe it makes it permanent, but yeah, it mostly just goes away as soon as you spray it with water. So we're gonna put a drawstring in next. By far my preferred drawstring is this satiny ribbon. You can find this at craft stores. This one I got from a thrift store, 29 cents. What a deal. Too bad it doesn't match. Oh look, this is the same brand across the time. So this is the wider version. It'll be harder to get through the channel. It doesn't match either. So I'm gonna use this rope that I have. This is gonna be a challenge because if, as I'm feeding it through the channel, I accidentally stick my threader thing through the rope, that would be a bad thing. So I'm gonna try it, see if I can make it work. This is like a purple tool that I'm using to thread the ribbon. If you have a yarn needle, you can try to make that work. I've definitely threaded a bunch of these, putting a safety pin through the end of my ribbon and then using a chopstick to shove it all the way through. So just try stuff out, be patient. It can take a little while to fish these drawstrings through, but you can do it. Okay, I hope all those steps made sense. If you have questions, you can put them in the comments below. I have a nice, easy drawstring bag here. The one thing I will say is that these are reusable, but they get pretty wrinkly. Up here where the drawstring is, see how that cotton fabric is all wrinkly? That will come out really easily. You could just, get it damp and run a hairdryer over it or throw it in the dryer. But if you're my friend and I give you one of these, my recommendation would be to store it flat. So you can kind of fold the bottom flat like that, and then just kind of fold it all the way up so it's nice and flat. And then you can just stick it in a tub or in a drawer until you need to give somebody a gift, and then you can pass it along. Should be the last gift wrap you ever need to make, except you'll have to make a whole bunch of them.